magical humans! This is the TransAtlantic Transmask podcast, accompanying you on your own trans journey or giving you an insight into ours. I'm your host, Frit Ryan.
And I'm your other host, Ryan Reese. We hope you'll come along for all the stories, shares, challenges, changes, questions, affirmations, and euphoria as it relates to each of our transitions, happening in real time from across both sides of the pond.
In today's episode, we'll be discussing hair, as in haircuts, hairstyles, hair on your head. But before we begin, I want to welcome and say thanks to all of you out there listening and tuning in from all across the world. We really hope that this podcast can help and inspire you in some way.
Also, we would love for you to interact with us in the comments if you're on YouTube, or on Twitter, TransAtMask, TransAtMask. We're taking future episode ideas, and we will also be conducting polls to better include the community in our discussions, so definitely reach out and connect. All right. Let's talk about hair. Hair.
Let's talk about hair.
Let's talk about hair, baby. Let's talk about We're like, what hair songs could we come up with? That's the one I came up with. Nice.
Okay, let's start with Ryan. Can you describe your hair to anyone who's listening to the podcast? Obviously, if they're watching on YouTube, they will be able to see it. But on the podcast, what does your hair look like?
Currently, a little overgrown. It's short. It is a short haircut. I'm not stoked about it at the moment. Let's take off the headphones for a second. Let's see. It's kind of fluffy. It's a full head of hair so far. We're still good on that. And it's kind of reddish in tint, a little bit still. I had like really red hair when I was a kid. I guess people used to say strawberry blonde or auburn as well. And yeah, it's kind of grown out. I chopped it all off pretty recently to kind of get that masculine vibe that I wanted. Describe your hair, Frit. Yours is looking sharp.
Well, right. So sharp would be a good word purely for how solid it is. Like, it just doesn't move. So sharp is a good descriptor for sometimes I get splinters of my own hair, would you believe?
You're like, so sharp from the gel.
Right, so but basically, because I'm Chinese, so I've got quite sort of stereotypical Chinese hair in the sense that it's like really thick and also there's a lot of it. But yeah, so like at this length, it's got like, I've basically got short back and sides. And I guess when I was younger, I would call this a ski slope. I'm like turning around to see.
Oh, a ski slope. Because it's kind of like going up in the front.
A ski slope went whoop.
Yeah, a little like lift in the front. Mm-hmm.
Whoop.
I have not styled my hair for the hair podcast. That was kind of whoops, my bad.
No, but I do kind of basically wake up like this. I do put some product in it and I can tell the difference, but my girlfriend can never tell the difference.
Really?
She like goes to like touch my head and I'm like, no, my hair's done. She's like, I literally can't tell when your hair's done and when your hair's not done. I'm like, what do you mean? I've like put some effort in.
It's because your hair is nice and thick, so it has good body. I mean, I used to like complain so much about my thick hair, and my mom was always like, "Oh, you'll be thankful when you get older." Now I see what she means, because as it gets thin as we get older. But yeah, let's talk about hair as relating to our transness, because I've had some interesting kind of relationship with my hair over the years. I'm sure you have as well. Frit.
Tell me more. Yeah, tell me more about your journey.
No, you tell me more. You start this time.
Okay.
No, you tell me.
So,
you have to go first.
Okay, all right, fine. So in this YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll put photos up also. Will we? You happy with that? To put some photos in of us with different hair?
Yes, definitely. Because what's going on right now is not indicative of how it always looks. But it's all right. It's fluffy. I'm looking at myself in the camera, fluffing it up.
So so when I was a kid, I had a short kind of bob.
Didn't we all?
So it was very like cut here by my chin, and then it kind of went up rounded, and then a fringe sat right on my eyebrows. So I was just the pure Chinese girl, just with your little
perfectly framing your face, just a frame.
Yeah.
Hair frame.
Because I've got so much of this strong Chinese hair. It would just hang. It hangs really well. And then when I was about 10, I asked my mum to cut it short because I was like, I really want short hair. And I basically wanted this hair that I've got now, but I was too afraid to ask for that. So instead, I got a bowl cut. So I kept the fringe.
The bob to the bowl. It's a classic move.
Yeah, it just kind of went over my ears, a bit down the back, and then it was like, it was too short to tie it up, and that was kind of my indicator of, short hair. This is where the boundary is between short hair and long hair, is whether you can tie it up or not.
How did you feel about that, going from that you couldn't tie your hair up anymore, that you finally got that short hair?
I felt really good about it, but I still was like, I think deep down I felt like
it's not quite what I wanted.
Yeah, it was like a stepping stone to what I wanted. Kind of like easing myself or others into what it was that I really wanted. And then as a teenager, I was a massive emo teenager. So I kept the fringe, obviously, the emo fringe that kind of went over one eye. I think it went over this eye.
A little slanted and a little angled.
Yeah.
Little angled bang action.
Oh, 100%. You get a crick in the neck because you have to kind of constantly hold it this way so you can actually see.
Did you have like a little hair flip that you would do too? Did you like kind of have like a little brush back?
Yeah, to see anything or like to write something down or like sign for something, just like flick it back.
Yes.
And then so I had like a big emo fringe, and at the back I spiked it all out. In the mornings I would like put my head over the edge of the bath.
I did something similar. This is so funny.
Did you?
You'd like tip your head into the sink kind of thing?
Yeah. Wet the back of my head, blow dry that up, put loads of product in it so that all of that was like standing up, and then all of like the front and the sides was just like my parting started halfway down the left side of my head, and then
the other side of your head.
Yeah, like the biggest comb over you've ever seen, and then just chucked that all over into an emo fringe, and that's the style that I rocked for quite a few years too. I really enjoyed that actually.
And were you like, I feel like you're like kind of touching into like, this feels a little bit more androgynous maybe?
Yes, I did sort of reflect on the fact that actually that emo phase of my life, I think I felt so much more comfortable with than other areas of my childhood and adolescence, because I think a lot of the way that the emo culture is in terms of hair and clothes and makeup is sort of, it blurs the boundaries between genders. So you know, you could identify as whatever gender you liked, but you'd probably wear the same clothes as somebody else who identifies as a different gender, and there would be no issues with it. You just sort of acknowledge each other with probably like an emo nod or something and put some emo music on, and you'd be great. You'd be friends forever.
The emo thing is so interesting because, shall I swing into some of my hair stories?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Okay, I mean, we can kind of swap back and forth here, but I was kind of more into punk rock when I was in high school, and I did a similar thing. I guess I'll back up, but it's kind of a similar story that when I was younger, you know, I had just like whatever little kid hair, and then I think actually one of my first haircuts that I got, my mom said, "What do you want?" And of course, like, again, you're like a kid, right? Aren't you like 4 when you get your first haircut or something? And this is around the time that I'm starting to figure out my gender. And I was like, I want a short haircut, like a boy. And so my mom's like, okay, yeah, you can have a short haircut. And we're going to show the photo. It's like, you know, classic kind of bob looking thing rounded around my head. And my mom said, and this is so funny because, again, she's kind of in denial still about all of my trans stuff, but she always would tell the story of when they turned me around to look at myself in the mirror, and my mom said I had the biggest smile on my face, and I said, I look like a boy. Oh. And I just had this like elation just from this haircut, right? Like, this is my first like
gender euphoria
with hair, and hair is such a huge thing in our community. I feel like for everyone, right? It's such an expressive part of ourselves. Definitely. And yeah, so that was kind of the first instance. But then I had so much like denial about like my existence as being kind of tomboyish. So I was always like playing this fine line. So after that, I really just grew my hair long. That's kind of tied into being shamed pretty much when I would be read as a boy, because I learned quite early on that was like not a good thing. And so having short hair, people would just think I was a boy immediately. So I was like, how can I differentiate myself? And one of those things was to have long hair. So if I had long hair, I wouldn't get mistaken for a boy. I could dress as boyish as I wanted. And the long hair generally gave it away that I was a girl, in quotes. So I kept with my long hair for a really, really long time, and I was really guarded about it. Like whenever I'd go to the salon or, haircut place, they'd be like, "Oh, what do you want to do? You want to do something different? You want layers?" And I'd just say, "No, like just take 1 inch." Like I wouldn't let them do more than like an inch, like to get, yeah, it's like weird. I got like protective over it. So I would have them just take like, just clean it up. And I just wanted it straight, long. I didn't want, obviously now looking back on it, I didn't want something girly. This was like a way to have it be feminine without it being girly, if that makes sense. So I would just like cut the ends off and leave it long. And I almost always wore it in like a low ponytail or pigtails. I was a pigtail kid. And
are we going to have photos of this in the YouTube video?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
When my partner first saw the photos of me when I was a kid, she was like, "Of course you were a pigtail kid." And some of my teachers would call me like Pippi Longstockings. But I think to me, again, it was a way to like have something that wasn't like, I don't know, pigtails aren't like super typical, like they're not girly, they're kind of like quirky and funny. And I think that's why I liked it. Like I didn't want to have like this like high ponytail, like I didn't want a bun, wearing it down, it would like get in my way. And so somehow I just decided that pigtails were me. And whenever I would draw myself as a kid, like it was me with the pigtails. That's how I differentiated myself. And then it wasn't until 8th grade, that's when I finally got the guts up to cut my hair off short. And I had a couple friends that had chopped their hair off, and that kind of made me feel like I could do it. And so that was the time when I went short hair and was like, oh, I want to have it spiky. And so I was doing something really similar to Frit, which was having kind of the front like moved over a little bit, like tamed, and then I would spike it out in the back. It's so funny that we had like a similar thing. And I remember being all excited about like my hair gels and like getting it spiky.
Oh, right? Got so excited about hair products. Oh, I wanted to use hair products so badly.
Sure, the back was all fluffed up, right? And then in high school, I went more like full spiky head. Like I would just try to get it cut. Because then a girl that was on my ice hockey team, I played ice hockey, she got her hair like bleached and spiked. And I was like, what? Like I want to do that. So a lot of times it was someone else that was female or a girl that was like giving me permission to like have short hair, because I seriously had this like fear that like my mom would get mad at me for like being too boyish, because like this was always this like game we kind of played. And so like if another girl was doing it, I could be like, oh well, she has short hair like that, like then I can do it, right? Like I'm just another girl with short hair, even though of course deep down I was like, oh, I like that it looks masculine.
So tell me, what kind of hairstyle did you have before the hair you have now, and what did it feel like to change your hair to the hairstyle that you have now?
I don't know if this is other people have experienced this, but sometimes having the short hair would almost like enhance my dysphoria, because I hadn't like quite admitted to myself what was going on. And so
that's
like,
interesting.
Yeah, it would like remind me of like, you want to be like a boy. Like when you cut your hair short, you kind of get that like feeling that you're closer, and then it would make me face it almost in a way. And so a lot of times there's like a couple things with that. So that's one. And then the other thing was I really liked to travel, and I was always jealous of guys that could like grow out like their beard, and you kind of see like the progress of their trip, and like slowly like, oh, they're just clean shaven at the beginning, and then it's like stubbly, and then like by the end of the trip it's like this mammoth beard that they have. And I was always really jealous of that, and I always really wanted it. And so I would do it kind of with my hair. So like this one trip that I went on, I was traveling for a bit, so I buzzed all my hair off at the beginning, and I wanted to see like the progress, kind of like, like trying to do a similar thing but with the hair on my head. And then I would just let my hair grow out long, and people would always be like, oh my god, like your hair's so long. So I just kind of got in the routine of like chopping my hair off, letting it grow really long, and then I would donate it, like I'd cut it and donate it, and then kind of rinse and repeat. And so I had this like interesting relationship with, I'd start like something really masculine and kind of have euphoria, but it would kind of scare me. And then I just like, I'm also probably just lazy, and I just kind of like let it go. And oh, it's like this, now it's shaggy, and now it's here, and now it's long, and now it's like really long. Sometimes when I see photos of myself with that long hair, I'm like, who is that? And it's not that I dislike long hair either. It's just that it does make me look more feminine, I think, like in our worldview. I think that once I present more masculine and can be kind of read more correctly as a guy, I would totally like to have long hair again.
I was going to ask, yeah. Like, I also have similar thoughts around it where I am not adverse to the idea of growing my hair out at some point, but it needs to be at a point where I feel comfortable with a lot of other parts of my exterior first, and then I can sort of tackle the long hair. But what I've been thinking about is that what I like about this whole sort of trans journey, particularly the trans mask journey, well, I say that it might even sort of happen for the trans femme journey too, but it's this sense of autonomy of choice. Like, right, I now can have the haircut that I want, and I've chosen that. So then in future, if I decide that I'm going to go for another hairstyle that may be typically associated with a different gender that I don't identify as, that's okay, because then again I've had the autonomy of choice to choose that. Whereas as a kid, I was like, I did not have that ability to choose. There was no choice available really for me there, and if there was, it was kind of within a more restricted container. Whereas now it's like I can choose to do whatever the hell I want with my hair, and that is like so freeing.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like so much of the context of what I did with my hair was about other people and making them comfortable. And looking back on it, I can get that now. It's like, why, when I was a kid, like, I was such a tomboy. Like, some people would be like, oh, I'm surprised you didn't have shorter hair. But it definitely was tied up with, I didn't want to look too boyish because I knew that was not a good thing to get read as a guy.
But isn't that kind of wild? That, like, we would, something as, like, almost trivial, even though, like, it is a really important part of our identity, but at the same time it is just hair. Like that we would even go to such small details as that to keep other people comfortable and safe. I find that such a weird thing to think about now, but I know that I still do it even now as an adult.
Totally. And I feel like that's just a universal thing. Like anyone that's listening that's not trans is like, I've done that. Like, I'm sure they have, like you didn't dye your hair the color you wanted to because someone was going to get upset about it or whatever it is.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I even kind of more recently, when I had short hair and I was just kind of committing to like, oh, like this was in my more like, let's be masculine again stage, and like cutting my hair really, really, really short. Mm-hmm. And I kind of did like a mohawk thing. Because I'd always, there's another hair story, is that I'd always wanted to have like a mohawk, and just talking about like my kind of identity with like punk rock.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, is like emo is kind of androgynous, whereas punk can kind of be more gendered in a way. Like there's a certain way that like female punk rockers will look or do their hair to like identify themselves as more feminine. So usually they'll have like, they'll have like the mohawk or the spikes, but they'll have like the hair here. Like they'll kind of have like a little bit coming down where it's like more feminine. Mm-hmm. And even when I was younger, I remember being like, I don't want that. Like I don't want the girl version. Like I always wanted the boy version of things. Like,
wow.
Yeah, like with clothes too, obviously. But yeah, with the haircut, like it was like, no, I want like the boy one. So more recently, one of my friends that does hair, they do an awesome job. I was like, Coral, I want a mohawk. Like, let's do this. Like, let's be mohawk buddies. And so they gave me my mohawk haircut, and it was awesome. Like we were just like walking around. I felt like so like empowered with this haircut that I had.
No, wait, are we going to see a picture of that too?
I'll definitely share a photo of it.
Yeah, okay, amazing.
And I wanted to like go crazy with it. I want to dye it colors, and there's always things with like where you work and everything, and there always seems to be like a reason that I couldn't do all these crazy hair colors. But now I don't really have that so much, so you might be seeing my hair change color a little bit, because I feel like I never got to like express that when I was younger. Like I bleached it a couple times. That was like, whoa, bleaching my hair. But I never got to do actually the high school I went to, we weren't allowed to dye our hair crazy colors. So
yeah, no, me neither.
And then in college, I just always still felt the threat of like, oh, like, you're not going to be respected, or you're not going to be able to get a job. And I'm not going to blame my mom for everything, but she definitely was kind of over me telling me these things, which like there is some advice in that, right? Like people will judge you. Like hopefully we're trying to eradicate that. But I definitely had those thoughts in my head a lot about what I should and shouldn't do with my hair according to my parents.
Yeah.
This autonomy thing that you're talking about, like it so resonates. It so resonates that like you can just, what would you like? You can just do that. And if it makes you happy, That's what matters. If it doesn't make someone else happy or they're like offended by
Yeah.
it, that's really their problem.
Yes, which is really hard to not internalize. But yeah, I've definitely done a lot of things with my hair over time that have probably sort of made some people a bit disgruntled. I did once dye my hair blue in school, and I got a 1-day suspension from my headmistress, but my suspension wasn't even that I was allowed to go home. I had to sit outside her office for the whole day, and then I was ordered to go back home and dye my hair black again. And I remember saying to her, because she came out of her office at the lunch break and said to me, "Why did you dye your hair blue?" And I said, well, the thing is that if we were in a world full of people who dyed their hair blue, you would be the odd one out for dyeing your hair blonde. Because she had like peroxide blonde hair.
Yes, I love it. It's always the people that dye their hair and then they're gonna like, why are you dyeing your hair? Why do you think? Why'd you dye your hair? Because you like it.
So she said, that's an interesting theory, but wrong. And then left me to sit outside of her office for the rest of the day.
Wow. So for you, with the hair dyeing, it wasn't really so much your family? Like, your family was cool with it? Or were you like,
no,
rebellious
actually,
teen?
I mean,
like,
I think like with a lot of things that I do, there is always this initial first reaction of, really? Are you sure you want to do that? My parents are quite like conservative people. They're just kind of very sensible, and they're quite happy in their sensibility. Whereas like I always wanted to push a little bit. I just wanted to like push and just, see what would happen. But because I grew up in this environment of sensibility, I didn't want to ever push too far. I wasn't this huge wild child. So then dyeing my hair blue did not seem like this massive, well, no, it did actually. It did seem like this massive thing. But in the context of, all the different things that I could have done with my hair at that age, it did not seem like this massive thing.
just to pause for a second.
Yes.
It's funny that you dyed your hair blue, because I was literally the color that I always said I was going to dye my hair was blue. Why are we like having parallel life experiences? I was going to bleach it and then like put blue in it. Oh, and I did finally dye my hair. So I did the bleaching in high school, but then more recently, just to end with another silly little photo, last Halloween, I was like, I'm going to be Luke Skywalker. And then I changed my mind after we watched all of the Star Wars films. Like, we literally watched all of them. And Clone Wars, we watched it all, people. The whole canon. It was a lot. I mean, I love Star Wars, but it was a lot. And there's some interesting ones in there. Let's not get into that. But I was like, no, I'm not going to be, I shouldn't be Luke. I need to be, what's his face? Kylo Ren. I was like, Luke, like, I'm Kylo Ren right now. Like, I'm wrestling with the darkness, and there's a lot of drama. I'm going to be Kylo Ren. So clearly I need to dye my hair black. So we did it. We did a home dye job. And that was a weird moment where just changing my hair color, I was like, whoa, who am I? Like, every time Darren would see me, or like we had a friend over, they're like, whoa, dark, man. There's so many hair experiences that we have.
I know. And like, I think what it was that like, it's obviously such like a public facing part of you. If people are looking at your face, then your hair inevitably is going to be within their eye line too. So it kind of makes sense that you would want your hair to empower you, to be aligned with how you feel about yourself, how you think about yourself, and give you confidence, I suppose, is the ultimate thing. The way that I've deemed it is that I started to, in quotes, assimilate, in terms of I grew it long and was like, I'm going to try and see if I can do this like pretty girl thing. Like, I'm going to grow it long, see how I feel about it. And it was the bane of my life. I hated it. It just wouldn't, because it's so thick and heavy, it wouldn't take any style. So I used to liken it to like a heavy set of curtains that would just like hang from the ceiling, and you couldn't really do anything with it. Like, you could sort of push it over one side and it would stay, then push it over another side, it would stay. That's about it. That's all you could do. You could never curl it. You could never put any waves into it. Like, you couldn't do anything because it would just all fall out.
My hair would not take curl either when I was a kid. Like, my mom would like wrap it in curlers to like go out at night, and like within 20 minutes she'd be like, and nothing.
Yeah.
So you had the long hair and you're like, I'm not vibing with this. And was it then that you're like, you know what, I'm just a short hair person? Like, did that kind of inner twine with like your gender experience?
There was definitely like a disgruntlement around it in terms of I was like, this hair is not for me, but I feel like I have to have it. Again, that sense of like autonomy and a feeling of obligation.
And would you get compliments too? Because when I had long hair, like my grandparents especially would be like, your hair's so beautiful, you look so pretty. Like those kind of comments would come out more, and it always made me feel like off.
I would only ever get them from the hairdressers, and the hairdressers would only ever compliment me on how thick it was. And I'd be like, yeah, I hate how thick it is.
Me too. They'd be like, your hair is so thick and coarse. I'm like, is that a good thing? People watching now are going to be like, your hair was never thick and coarse. It was. It was.
And then I remember I got it cut really short in 2019. December 21st, I remember the day. I got it cut really short by a friend who was a hairdresser.
This is so recent.
The whole time she was cutting it, she was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, like...
Oh, yeah, they do that.
I'm like so certain about this.
Rip the Band-Aid. I said I would like this. Why are you doing this to me? You're torturing me.
Exactly.
You sure you want to do this, right? Yes, I do. So you went from short hair as a kid and then kind of the emo cut, and then it was like long hair really until recently. Is that?
Yeah. After that haircut experience, I then sort of grew out the top and ended up with like a top knot with like the sides and the back shaved. And that ended up also being a really convenient lockdown haircut where everyone had to like have their partners or their spouse cut their hair. So that was like an easy sort of one grade job for Frankie to sort of buzz up and down the sides and the back of my hair. But then I still wanted this hair that I've got now.
And you still were like not quite there yet to do it. It's funny, like you had this want, right? Like you had this want, but you were like still stopped.
So massively. And like it wasn't until... So I got this haircut in September 2021. So where are we now? We're in March 2022. So I've only probably had it for about 6 months.
And how do you feel? How do you feel with the haircut of your dreams? I mean, it looks great on you.
Like...
It does. It fits.
Dreamy.
So dreamy. He's so dreamy. It's the hair.
It's only the hair. You could replace the face with anything else. It's just the hair.
No. The hair is accentuating the face. Come on.
This is true. Yeah, no, it is. You're right. It is a dream. Like Kid Frit. I often think about Kid Frit actually because Kid Frit knew exactly what he wanted. And just through loads of societal limitations, just couldn't have what he wanted and couldn't be treated the way that he wanted to be treated. So now, at the age of 33, I'm like living out Kid Frit's dreams. But I mean, we had to go through a hell of a long period of time to get here, which is wild. I find that like so full on that we've had to basically wait, like, you know, for this period of time.
But it makes it really exciting, doesn't it? It makes it exciting, and you really are grateful for what you have, like to be able to get it too. You're like, what? Like that's what I was saying.
That's
like this kind of level of joy where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it could be like this. Life can be like this.
That's so true, actually. Yeah, like it really is kind of a privilege to be able to put into motion the dreams that you've had since you were a kid. Like I hadn't thought about that, but yeah. Like, not everyone can do this, obviously.
No, and there are, like I said before, too, like, of course, this is a very trans experience, but I know there's other people out there that aren't trans who've done a similar thing with whatever it is. It could be your hair, could be something else, that you're not allowing yourself to be happy because you're, like, so worried what everyone else is going to think or what box they're going to put you into. So I feel like once we can break out of that, that's when... Freedom, yeah. And I think, too, it helps you to be less judgmental of other people once you can find your own peace with what it is that you want. Because you won't care as much. You'll just be happy that they're happy, you know? Because you already have your happiness. You're like, I'm not so happy about my hair right now, but that's another thing.
Well, we're going to put in photos of your hair that you really love into the video.
Yeah, that's right.
to round off this episode, Ryan, do you have a question that you would like to ask anyone who is watching or listening right now?
Yes, I do have a question for y'all. What does hair and your hairstyle mean to you? Has there ever been a point in your life where you felt like you felt more like yourself because of a haircut? Or if you're a trans person, was there a moment where you had gender dysphoria because of your hair, and then you changed something and suddenly you had this moment of extreme euphoria just from a simple haircut or a hairstyle or something you did? Let us know in the comments below on YouTube, or tweet at us, TransAtmask. I'm going to get used to saying this. Tweet at us. Yeah, let us know. I'm curious, because hair has been obviously such a huge kind of momentous thing for us. I would love to hear your stories out there.
Yes. Big thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoy our show, please follow us on your podcast platform and leave us a review if you can, because that really helps us to spread the word about this podcast and all the fun that we're having with it. If you're watching on YouTube, then please click the thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment. And we also have our email, which is transatmask@gmail.com. So please do send in your reviews, comments that way, or any new episode ideas too. We're always open to new suggestions. And of course, join our community in any one of those ways. Or what's going to happen to them, Ryan, if they don't join our community this time?
No ice cream for you.
No ice cream for you. You heard it here first.
Forever.
Forever? No ice cream forever.
Okay, maybe just for a year. A year off of ice cream.
No, I like it. I like the savagery of forever.
Yeah, forever. I take it back. It's forever.
Join our community in any one of those ways by either following us, subscribing to us, leaving us a comment. Otherwise, no ice cream for you ever again.
It's going to be rough.
Right. Until next time, stay magical.